welcome to British Biomedicine Institute. Today I, Dr. Pramod Khatri, Medical Director of British Biomedicine Institute, is going to represent a simple topic on cell injury or cell death. After this presentation, you will be able to guide through cell injury and cell death. It will also provide outline causes and pathogenesis of cell injury and death. It will also describe the morphological changes of cell injury and death, and it will also describe the processes of apoptosis. So the general consideration for the cell injuries are adapt or die, which is also known as apoptosis. There can be reaction patterns in a given cell tissue which are often limited. If there is a degree of injury as a function of type, duration and severity of insult, then it can also lead to cell death or cell injury. So basically there can be various types of insults, basically like hypoxia, if there is lack of oxygen to the tissue, like ischemia, example is embolus, and for systemic, example is cardiac failure. And if there is hypoxemia, then there can be, if a person is going to a high altitude or to a mountain, then it can be a problem for his breathing, or there can be oxygen breathing problems. And if a patient is suffering from anemia, then there can be various hemoglobin problems like hemoglobinopathies and anemias. They all lead to hypoxemia. If a patient has undergone for cyanide poisoning, then that can lead to oxidative phosphorylation reaction. The insult can also be from chemicals. There are many of the common poisons like arsenic, cyanide, mercury. They interfere with cellular metabolism. If ATP level drop below critical level, affected cell will die. There are also various pharmaceuticals, medicines which have high toxic effects on the cells, and some act directly, but most have their effect through breakdown metabolites. Metabolism of alcohol, it is basically a type of drug. To acetaldehyde is an example. Infection like fungi, rickettsia, bacteria and viruses. Example here is viruses can take over protein translation machinery and subvert it entirely to the production of new virus. Physical can also result in a cell death or injury. If there is a direct physical effect like exposure of tissue to extreme heat and cold result in direct injury, that is often reversible, resulting in a pattern of coagulative necrosis. If there is a sudden change in the pressure that can cause cellular disruption like a hammer blow on the thumb. Electrical current can also cause direct breakdown of cellular membrane that may be irreversible. If there is a weak immune system, then that can also be an insult, and it can lead to cell death or injury. Inflammatory mediators such as interferons and interleukins can both alter gene expression and cellular metabolism. The effect are designed to help cell combat an infection process, but the resulting stress of the cell can be highly injurious and sometimes deadly. If there is an activation of complement, it can directly attack the cell surface membrane. Cytotoxic T cells and NK cells can mediate a direct attack on the target cells and initiate self-destruction cascade within a target cell. Nutritional. If there is a dietary insufficiency or if there is dietary overtake, again it can lead to cell injury. So if in dietary insufficiency of protein, vitamins, minerals, they can lead to injury at cellular level, which can interfere with normal metabolic pathway. If a patient is having an excessive amount of diet, then it can lead to cellular and tissue alterations which are detrimental. Fat is the biggest offender. Excessive ingestion of health supplements can again disturb the cell reactions. So now comes the summary of the cell injuries. It can be due to hypoxia, it can also be with chemicals, it can be physical due to infections, or if there is a weak immune response, and if there is excess or insufficient nutrition, that can also lead to cell injury. So now comes the principal structure target for cell damage. So if there is a damage in cell membranes like your plasma membrane or organelle membranes, there can be a DNA rupture, and proteins where structural and enzymes they can misbehave due to damage of cell damage. Mitochondria can also misbehave if there is a oxidative phosphorylation reactions which are degraded or which are disturbed. So cell injury can be basically divided into two types, like your reversible process and irreversible process. In reversible process, for example, there is a loss of ATP, like a failure of sodium potassium pump, or if there was an anaerobic metabolism like increase of lactic acid and phosphate inside the body of a patient who is running continuously, then in that case lactic acid will increase. So, and also the third point here is if there is a reduced protein synthesis, then these are the reversible processes which can lead to cell injury. There are also various irreversible processes which can lead to cell injury permanently, or there can be cell death. If there is an activation of enzyme, or if there is a massive intracytoplasmic calcium accumulation, then these are the irreversible process which can lead to permanent cell injury. So the pathogenesis of cell injury in general are if there is a reduced ATP synthesis or mitochondrial damage, if there is a loss of calcium homeostasis, presence of free radicals, and disrupted membrane permeability. Free radicals are basically unstable chemicals and they are highly reactive. They are basically associated with cell injuries if there is a use of chemicals, drugs, reperfusion injury, inflammation, irradiations, oxygen toxicity, and carcinogenesis. So free radical generations occur by if there is absorption of irradiations like OH or H. If there is a endogenous normal metabolic reactions like O2 negative or H2O2. If there is a transition metal available, Fe positive. Availability of nitrous oxide. It is an important paracrine type mediator that helps regulate vascular pressure. And if there are presence of toxins like carbon tetrachloride, then again it can helps in production of free radicals which can damage tissue injury, which can lead to tissue injury. So your free radicals, they can be removed with the help of antioxidants like vitamin E, vitamin A, ascorbic acid, and glutathione. They can also be spontaneous decay. We can also use storage protein like transferrin, ferritin, ceruloplasmin, and enzymes like catalase, SOD, and glutathione peroxide oxidase can also be used to remove the free radicals which are present in the cells. So in the next slide, free radicals can injure the cell if there is a membrane lipid peroxidation. In that reaction, there will be autocatalytic chain reactions which can damage your cells. If free radicals interact with protein, then the protein fragmentation and protein-protein cross-linkage can happen, which can again lead to cell damage. If there is a DNA damage, then your single-stranded break will occur at the genomic and mitochondrial level, and again it will lead to damage of cells. Next in the next slide, there are general protective mechanisms like heat shock response genes. They comprise a large group of genes Expression are basically up-regulated in the face of cell stressor, and they serve to protect protein from stress-related damage, and they clean up the damaged protein from the cell. There are many tissues and organs which can survive injury if they are pre-stressed. It is a way to exploit this phenomena to improve organ transplantation, and tissue repair are being tested in clinical trials. So your cell injury can be basically divided into two types: reversible process or irreversible process. So we can study the cell injury with the help of light microscopy, and we can examine the cytoplasmic changes and nuclear changes. So in this diagram, we are clearly able to differentiate between live cells, injured cells, and dead cells. So if there is a abnormal accumulation of lipid and protein, then that can also be analyzed with the help of light microscope. So in this photo, in this picture, it is clearly visible that there is accumulation of proteins and lipid inside the cell. Necrosis. Necrosis is a death of group of contagious cell in tissue or organ. There are various patterns like coagulative, liquefactive, caseous, fat necrosis, gangrene, or infarct like white, red, hemorrhagic. So the coagulative necrosis is basically the cell have died, but the basic shape and the architecture of the tissue remains available. The most common manifestation of ischemic necrosis in tissue. They are basically affected tissue maintain solid consistency, their shape remain viable. In most cases, the necrotic cells are ultimately removed by the inflammatory cells. The dead cells may be replaced by regeneration of neighboring cells or by scar, like fibrosis. Or we can also use stem cell technology to replace the cells, dead cells. So now this is a normal coagulative necrosis, and in another picture, necrosis of the cells are clearly visible. Next is RC cells are clearly visible in this coagulative necrosis inside this picture. Next is liquefactive necrosis. In this, there is a complete dissolution of necrotic tissue, most commonly due to massive infiltration of neutrophils like abscesses formation. There will be a release of reactive oxygen species and protease. Liquefaction is also characteristics of ischemic necrosis of brain. So in this photo, there is a clear-cut visibility of liquefactive necrosis of the tissue. Next is caseous necrosis. In this, there is an accumulation of amorphous, no structure is available, debris within an area of necrosis. Tissue architecture is abolished and viable cells are no longer available or recognizable. The characteristics associated with granulomatosis, inflammations of tuberculosis are also seen in some fungal infections. So caseous necrosis are basically seen in fungal infections and in TB patients. So this is an example of the caseous necrosis of a patient. So now the caseous necrosis of the cells is clearly visible in this diagram, in this photo. Next is fat necrosis. It results from the action of lipase released into the adipose tissue like trauma, pancreatitis. Free fatty acids accumulate and precipitate as calcium soaps like sponification. These precipitates are grossly visible as pale yellow or white nodules. Microscopically, the digested fat loses its cellular outline and they are basically seen in local inflammation. This is the photo of a fat necrosis. Next is gangrene or gangrenous necrosis. Not a separate kind of necrosis at all, but a term for necrosis that is advanced and visible grossly. If there is mostly coagulation necrosis, the typical blackening, dissecting foot which dried up before the bacteria could overgrow, that is known as dry gangrene. So if there is no growth of bacteria, then it is known as dry gangrene. And if there is growth of several kinds of bacteria and there is a foul smelling, that is known as wet gangrene. So in this, it is clearly visible that there is a gangrene necrosis of the patient foot. Next is infarction, an area of ischemic necrosis in a tissue or an organ. If it is white, then there will be arterial occlusion in most solid tissue, and in red or hemorrhagic there will be venous occlusion, loose tissues, dual blood supply and previously congested cells. So white infarction is visible in this photo. Red infarction is visible in this small intestine. Next is apoptosis, the basics. Apoptosis is a distinct reaction pattern which represents programmed cell death, or we can say suicide. The cell actually expend energy in order to die. It is basically, apoptosis are basically derived from a Greek word for a falling off, or it is like of autumn leaves, they fall. Apoptosis is the physiological way for a cell to die naturally, seen in a variety of normal situations. So apoptosis can be differentiated with necrosis. Necrosis is a pathological response to cell injury. It can be due to chromatin clump, mitochondrial swelling or rupture, membrane lysis or cell content spill, and inflammatory response triggered. All these can lead to necrosis, whereas apoptosis, if there is a DNA cleaved at a specific site like 200 base pair fragments, cytoplasm shrink without membrane rupture, bulbing of plasma and nuclear membrane, cell content in membrane bounded bodies, and if there is no inflammation, then that can lead to apoptosis. So apoptosis can be basically differentiated if there is an outer layer explode or internal explode. So if there is a normal apoptosis, then a stain of apoptotic cells in the developing paw of fetal mouse, which are clearly visible in this photo. So there is there are no apoptotic cells differentiation in the fetal mouse. Next is graft versus host disease in colonic mucosa. So in this, there is a cellular activity inside the graft disease. Apoptosis can be triggered if there is a cell death signal. Example, TNF, tumor necrosis factor, or FAS. If there is a DNA damage where P53 play an important role for deciding the cell death, and if there is also a withdrawal of growth stimuli or growth factors, then that can trigger apoptosis naturally. So apoptosis can be either intrinsically or it can be due to extrinsically factors which play an important role. So if there is an intrinsic factor, example here is TNF family, they leads to cell death. If extrinsically factors are TNF family, whereas intrinsic mechanisms are hormonal withdrawal. Then if there is inside the intrinsic hormones or mechanism, there can be internally withdrawal of hormones which can lead to cell death internally. And in the extrinsic factors, there can be rupture of that cell wall which can lead to cell death or apoptosis. So these are the various mechanisms which can lead to apoptosis of a cell either through extrinsic factors or intrinsic factors. So this was all about the cell injury. I hope you have gained a lot of clinical information through this presentation. Please like, share, comment our YouTube channel.